Eli Manning stays on his feet. It is caught by
Tyree. Welcome back to Catch the Moment Podcast. It's your host, David Tyree. Super excited to dial back in for another episode. We get you through the pain, the process, journey, get you to your next moment. Today, super excited to connect with author, mentor, and just a dynamic educator in general, but even more so, host of the Harrison Family Values. Bro, it's good to connect, man, and get a dialogue, man. Got to get the business out of the way first.
Yes, sir.
We definitely go back a good while, some mutual connections, but I don't even know if I ever got your helmet catch story. So where were you? What's your memories? Come on, we need it. We
helmet catch story.
Yeah, what was the first thoughts? Anything, whatever.
I'm a loyalist, right, to my city. So I've been a Giants fan since I can remember.
But I was nervous. I thought you was gonna say I was a Jets fan.
No, Giants fan. Yeah. So it's over. Jets, Yankees, Knicks.
Okay,
Giants.
so you got the right combo too.
Yeah.
So I
Always
tell
been
people,
that way.
Jets, Mets, Nets, second class citizens, man.
Yeah, second class, right? So I had a Super Bowl party because my Giants is playing the perfect season Patriots. And I got to be honest with you.
Yep.
I didn't think the Giants was going to win.
Not many did. You being the majority.
Yeah. So I remember I was renting an apartment, but we had access to the basement. And I had gotten a projector from the church.
Okay.
Right? They didn't know this, but they're going to find out now. I took the projector from the church and set it up in the basement. So I had like a Super Bowl party.
Nice.
I had some of the guys from church. The ladies were staying upstairs. And I'm watching the game. And it was a tight game. So I thought the Patriots were going to blow the Giants out.
Yeah.
It was a tight game. But then I remember the first score was some guy named David Tyree.
Yeah.
Getting the pass.
Go ahead. He showed me love, man.
So guy named David Tyree, first score for the Giants. I'm like, okay, we could probably win this. But then the game was going on and on and on. And I'm like, all right, I'm not sure what's going to happen. Patriots is up. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna lose this. It's just gonna stay like this. And then the snap. And then Manning released the ball. And I saw you rise up to catch it, right? And when you landed,
it was wild.
And then the refs called it, clean, like good. My whole house exploded. My whole house exploded. Like everybody was going all over the place. At that point, I'm thinking we're winning this game.
Yeah,
we're winning this game, right? And it was amazing, right? And I remember Manning's at the end, they're talking about hey, how you feeling? And he said your name. He was like, David Tyree, man. And I was like, it was amazing to watch.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, how did you do that? Because you had to, like, for you to hold it on your helmet, you had to be able to curl 200 pounds easy. Because it's either that or it was a miracle. Yeah, it was either that or it was a miracle.
Yeah.
And that's where I was.
That's dope. That's dope.
Yep.
Now I love hearing that. And obviously, like I said, you're a New York native.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine, not just with that scene. I always think, and I talk to anybody, I'm like, yo, what was the city like? What was the island like?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know it must have just been horns honking and
it
just
was crazy.
Craziness in the streets.
Yes. It was crazy.
It's a special time because everybody typically remembers where they were and what was going on even when they saw it, even if it wasn't the day of it. So, thanks for sharing, bro. But I mean, like, it probably had to be just not too much longer afterward, where a mutual connection. Mm-hmm. And I've always known you as a servant, right? Like, just a servant. I had a relationship. I'm actually working in Staten Island, and we meet up. You're an educator in New York City schools, but you've always been a servant. What about your journey has kind of led you to this place of impact, especially in relation to children and being able to instruct, care? What knitted your heart to these gravitational places of service?
I grew up in Manus Harbor in Staten Island. Prior to that, Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. And I watched a lot of things happen around me, and I could have gone in almost any direction. And even before I found Christ, I was always just trying to help people younger than me.
Yeah.
I would be at the park, just playing with the little kids playing basketball.
Sure.
Right? I remember even with me, there were some of the older guys in the community that would pour into me as well.
Yep.
Like I remember I was playing basketball and I was a scrub. When I first moved to Staten Island, I was
hit
bad.
right?
No, I was bad.
You was out there like,
well, you know what it was?
White chocolate.
You know, my mother had us pretty sheltered in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Right. I couldn't go anywhere.
I call them the smart mothers. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, you grow up, you become an adult, and you realize what they were sheltering you from.
Yeah. Like people would say, you know, when the street lights came on, you came home.
Those
I was
rules.
already on the porch. So when the street light came on,
you ain't play no games.
I was already there. I wasn't allowed to leave the porch. I was sheltered. Then when I moved to Staten Island, got a little bit more freedom.
Yeah.
The park is right down the block.
Big
Going to the
facts.
park, playing basketball, and everybody is either beating me like I don't know how to play because I didn't, or sunning me, like, you know, making fun of me because I don't know how to play. And some of the older guys would just teach me certain things.
Nice.
And I would just practice those things. Everything they taught me, you know, I took in everything they taught me. And I started to try, you know, sort of turn that into me helping the younger ones out also.
So you actually, you saw the value in it.
Yeah.
That's
fantastic.
fantastic.
Because the thing is, I got better. I got better. Like I got, by the time I graduated high school, I was, you know, I was really good at basketball.
Get some respect out there.
Yeah. And I saw the value in somebody giving me that kind of advice or guidance.
Sure.
And me giving it to others. And when I became a Christian, it sort of just went right into that. When I became a Christian and I was a 17-year-old kid in the youth group, and all of a sudden, all the 13 and 14-year-olds are telling me, hey, you know, what do you think about this? You know, what about this Bible verse? I'm like, I don't know. I just came on to Jesus who. But sort of just kept going from there.
Sure.
And I really believe that pouring into the young people helps us all in the future.
Oh, absolutely.
And the thing is, if you give anybody the right path to walk in, they're going to be successful.
Sure.
Give them an alternative to see something different and let them see the benefits of choosing this path is going to help you because this is the alternative and this is where this is going to lead you.
Sure.
You know, now you have a choice. And whenever you give, and I just want to give young people the choice.
Yeah.
I want to be that choice, right?
That's good.
And and that's why, like, I've always been in service to families, to people, and I feel fulfilled. I feel like my job is done.
Yeah.
I don't have to be on a grand stage. I don't have to be, you know, seen. But if I can push somebody to be successful, that's why I'm happy.
Nah, man, I transitioned from the NFL in 2010, and like I said, mutual friend. Yeah. I'm working with his father, financial, you know, kind of in a financial service, but they were extremely charitable and outreach driven. So we did a lot of outreach, and I think the faith marries service, right? If you're obviously of the Christian faith, and most religions, you understand the necessity and the value of loving people, and that requires service and action. So, what was attractive for you for understanding your need, even at that early age, in relation to faith and growth and just being better?
Honestly, at the time, it wasn't a need. I'll be honest with you. So, I share this all the time. Here's a little bit about my testimony. His name is Matthew Reeves. He actually trains my son now in basketball. Matthew Reeves, right? I was in high school, went to Tyree High School in Staten Island, New York, and I was a year ahead of him. So he was going to church, and he was heavy in the church. I was heavy in the basketball.
Gotcha.
I was also heavier into other things, but
we ain't gonna go there today. We had to run that back. No.
Yeah, you know, just you know what it was like. I wasn't a bad kid. I wasn't a knucklehead. I wasn't out there. You know,
wasn't in them streets.
I wasn't in them streets.
No
Not
crazy,
like that.
mean mugging and drugging.
No. And what's crazy is I grew up in a really tough neighborhood.
Sure.
I was friends with all of them. You know, all of the killers, all of the drug dealers. But the thing is, I don't know what it was about me, but they respected me enough to where if something was about to go down, they would say, "Hey, Dre, go for a walk." You know, it was like that. You know,
that's beautiful.
They knew me. I played
See, that's
ball.
the difference between our era and today's era.
True.
Oh man, it was like Goodfellas still had rules, right?
Yeah.
Like even and trust me, Staten Island is full of them too.
Yeah.
But
Facts.
So go ahead, man.
So I wasn't like a knucklehead. I was respectful to my elders, all that stuff. Just, you know, I smoked weed.
Yeah. I was out here burning it down.
Yeah. You know, had girls and whatnot, whatever. But I wasn't according to, you know,
world standards. There you go.
So this kid named Matthew Reeves would hound me every single day for like 2 years to come to church.
Really?
And I would not go. Yeah. I'm like, no, I'm good. And the thing is, I always had a desire for God, right?
Yeah.
I just thought, I was good. Like I was a nice person, I respected people. I'm good. And he just kept hounding me to go to church and go to church and go to church. I was like, no, I don't want to go to church. I don't want to go to church, right? So toward the beginning of my junior year, he asked me to come to church. I said, no, I don't feel like going to church. Don't just stop asking me. It got to the point where Timeville is a huge school and it's like shaped in a big square, right?
Okay.
And it have wings, like, A, B, C, D wing.
Oh, wow.
I would have a class, right? I would have a class in the A wing, and in between, all I had to do was walk to the B wing, right? But if I saw him, I'm walking all the way around the building to avoid him, right? I'm late for class and everything.
Why you treat my man like he had bad breath or something?
Yo, man, it's crazy, right? And he wasn't like a cornball. He was a cool dude. Just
solid dude.
I just didn't want to go to church. So one day he said, hey, please come, just come to church, man. I got some people coming over. We're going to play ball. I said, basketball?
Yeah.
I'm there. So this was a Friday. We went, go play basketball. I saw some of the kids from the school, from Park Hill. And I'm like, yeah, what's going on? We were playing ball. It was cool, right?
Yep.
I said, hey, we got service on Sunday. I was like, you know what? I'll check it out. Right? So I wasn't looking.
He romanced you with a little hoop dream.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, right? So we go to church, and the church is cool, multicultural congregation. It wasn't overly huge, right? Pastor's preaching at the end of the message. I'm like, okay, this is cool, everybody's praying, and this lady starts going crazy with some crazy language. I had no clue what they were saying, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking around like, what's happening here, right? But everybody's head was down, right? So I'm like, let me keep my head down because I'm going to be the only fool looking around. And I thought to myself, I'm never coming back to this church again, right? Lo and behold,
these nut jobs.
Yeah, he kept asking me, kept hounding me, right? And I kept saying no, dodging him. And then one day he cornered me and said, listen, man, we're going on this youth retreat. I said, what's a youth retreat? He said, yeah, we go away to, this college university and we, talk about God and we worship God. I said, no. No, I'm not going.
No.
Then he said, but there's a basketball tournament. I said, word?
I'm there. He was gay.
I'm like, I'm there, right? So we go there, and the first night, there was a guy named Danny Chambers speaking.
Okay.
And what he said resonated with me. And I remember saying to God, like, if you're real, if this is all true, I'll give my heart to you today, And we wound up losing the basketball tournament, but that Saturday night, I gave my heart to Jesus.
Wow.
And I remember I was a zealous, Like when I first got saved, I was like,
you was like,
crazy. I went home.
Don't ask me nothing.
No, I went home. I took all my secular music. My mother thought I was crazy. I threw it all out, all that. The only thing I had.
Oh, you went hard. You went hard.
No, I went hard.
That's my kind of Christian right there.
Yeah.
And put that in the trash.
Danny Chambers did music too, so he was throwing music into the audience, and I caught a cassette tape.
Yeah.
Cassette tape. It was back in '97. And that was the only piece of music I had for months. Wow. For months. Yeah. And what's crazy is like I was in the music. I thought I was gonna it's bad to say this now, but I thought I was gonna be an intern at Bad Boy Records. I wanted to Yeah, now it's tough.
90s,
to say.
you would have been the man.
Yeah. I was looking to go to Institute for Audio Research.
Okay.
because I wanted to learn, music production and mixing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I wound up going to Bible college.
Wow, man, what a pivot, bro.
Yeah.
So at 17 years old, which is like I said, man, you way ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And it's a bold, you are literally like the minority of the minority, right? Like, like few there be. So
and at the time it's like I wasn't going through anything crazy. Like I grew up without my father. I didn't have like the most, my life wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
no overt crazy. And I don't have the craziest, but I got one of those radical transformation testimonies. It was just a gentle leading, some fair resistance. I want my own way, but you just yield. Hey man, I love it. So when people have encountered you, because there is this contrast of people feel like you have to be the worst human being in the world to need a savior.
Yeah.
What are some of your conversations been like in your service to people? Because I think, you have this ability to meet people right where they are with the conversations, right? Through your podcast and, just understanding that there has to be a meeting ground.
Yeah.
But when people, when you engage that, what's your go-to, knowing that you don't have one of those robust.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like I really come from the angle that like, when it comes to faith, you don't have to have that kind of crazy testimony for you to be like that kind of relevant Christian that people want to hear from.
I'm sure you've been challenged. I've been challenged. Why would they need God? Well, if I'm not that bad, you know.
Then the question is, what metric are you using to determine how bad you are?
Oh,
you know, so if I'm using my own metric, I'm going to be good every time. If I see somebody that has something that I want, and it feels good to me to take it,
sure,
right? Then I'm gonna take it and then say I'm not bad because I wanted it. It's mine, right?
Yeah.
I wanted it. So whose metric are we using to determine what's good or bad?
Sure.
And I had to when I became a Christian, I had to come to grips with that. You know, like I smoked weed and I was, I wasn't like a huge. I slept with, the girl.
Yeah. He was out here hooking. Hey, we was out here hooking and hoeing. We was out here. We was in these streets.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time. That's like, it reminds me of, when you break the law, you're a lawbreaker.
Yes. Yep.
Right. And that's the simplest parallel because who hasn't lied, stole, and cheated in some capacity? Yeah. And it's a good old Ray Comfort, if anybody who's been in the faith, just you have to be honest with, and if you did it, then that's who you are until you no longer are that person.
Yeah.
And obviously, like I said, our faith is complex, but so simple.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you eventually get to the gray area, but not until you deal with the black and white.
And you know what I find too? I think people's issue isn't really with faith, it's how they can operate in society with their faith.
Yeah.
Like how can I be real and relevant?
The love of the world.
And still be a representation of Jesus.
Yeah, that's excellent, man. So tell me, like, in what was, for you as you matured and, like I said, we're in a kind of a similar age bracket.
I think you might be a little older than me. I'm just saying.
Yeah, 43 or 43. Where you at?
Wait, I'll be 44 in December.
Okay, you got me. You got me.
Ah, man. Damn,
actually, yeah, you got me.
All right.
So at the time, but I'll be 44 coming up real soon, my dog. Understanding that, right? Like when you think about unpacking the journey of becoming a man, unpacking the journey of becoming whole, what were some of the painful processes or the things that you had to endure to become more secure, to become more whole? Because like I said, whether it's missing a father or whether there were some things that, these are conversations that are starting to happen more and more and more.
Yep.
But for you, what was that painful thing that you had to begin to deal with to come to a greater place of stability and wholeness, even in your service to others? Because you can't offer what you don't have.
Yeah.
Right. So what was some of your, as you've arrived to be just such a credible mentor, steward, leader in service, even in the gospel, what were some of those things that was hard to do?
It was hard to find who I was as a man. Today, I'm a father to so many different kids. Like it's crazy how every morning before my day starts, there's dozens of kids before they go to class come in and give me a hug. And I realize the reason why they want the hug is because they need to feel a positive male presence and support, right? And I had that growing up, but not in consistency, not consistent, but in spurts, right?
Sure.
I had a great positive male role model like my uncle.
It's awesome.
My brother's father, Alvin. But my father, my biological father, I call it Alvin Pop. My biological father wasn't there.
Got you.
And I would have this reoccurring dream. And the dream would be me as a kid. And my mother was holding me in a towel and she was arguing with this man. And as they were arguing, he was exiting. And he was walking down the stairs and he looked up to me and waved. And I waved back. And, that was a dream.
That was a dream, reoccurring.
So fast forward, I met my father when I was like 31.
Wow.
And I wrote a book called From a Fatherless Father to His Sons. And before I released it, I let him read it. And I shared that in the book. And he called me, he said, Andre, that dream you had was the exact thing that happened the last day I saw you.
Whoa.
Right? It was a reoccurring dream, right? And I didn't realize how much the lack of my father not being there weighed on me growing in fact, like, so I grew up in a house full of women.
Yeah. Me too.
I knew how to turn double Dutch. Like, I kid you not.
Yeah.
My mother told me that I wouldn't go to the bathroom without my sister.
Wow.
My godmother, she passed away a couple of years ago, right? And I remember this. I had to be about maybe 4 or 5, right? And I would sit down to pee, right?
Ooh.
My godmother.
Just sit down.
No, listen. Let's. So my godmother came in, right? And she said, I won't say the word. She said, "You ain't no B. Stand up. Stand up." And she taught me how to pee standing up.
Hey, bro.
Right?
This is so good. Listen, man, this is so good. And I had moments, I had 2 older sisters. I had women championing my masculinity.
Yeah, see? Yeah.
It was a powerful thing.
Yes.
Because, like I said, I was the youngest. Mm-hmm. I was a little bit of a crybaby.
Yeah.
And I had 2 older sisters and a mom. But my older sisters were tough. Mm-hmm. And they understood, at least at that some young measure, what a man needs to be. Mm-hmm. Not all. Yeah. But you need to be stronger. Yeah. Like, you need to stand up to piss.
Yeah. Just like that, right?
It's great to hear that because we're going in the opposite direction.
Yeah, we are.
And we're validating behaviors that aren't producing healthy masculinity. Yeah, we're not talking about toxic side. We're talking about just healthy. Secure masculinity.
Yeah, secure masculinity. Yeah, so I didn't realize, just growing up. And my mother would date and get to know men. And my initial thing was just, let me get to know who this man is.
Yeah.
Not like that, let me be a knucklehead to this man coming to date my mother.
Sure.
I'm like, I just want to know who he is so I can get to know him.
Wow. And genuinely interested.
Yeah. I wanted to know what it was to be a man. My godfather used to shave, right? And he used to, mix the shaving cream and all that stuff.
He was mixing it.
Yeah, put it on with a knife.
With it.
And I would just watch, in amazement, like, okay, this is what men do. Yeah. I would walk around my godfather's house with his shoes on,
That's
trying
dope.
And I didn't have my father there, and I realized that I was yearning for male guidance, male presence to see. So I grew up making a lot of stupid mistakes. I remember the first time I lost the first time, you only lose your virginity one time.
I'm about to say you get one crack.
So I lost my virginity, right? I was 12.
Woo!
And
man, you got out there, my boy.
Yeah. I'm not proud of it.
Nah, listen, man, you and me both. I was 14, not proud.
Yeah. So I remember going to a night center playing basketball. I was 12, going to night center and with one of my friends, and they all like talking about sex and how it felt and all that stuff, and they're all lying because not any of them did it, right? All of them was like, yeah, I'm no virgin, and I'm like, I ain't a virgin either, and knowing I was, right,
same
and
thing.
14-year-old girl, from the school, had interest in me and invited me over to her house, and boom, right,
goes down,
yeah. It wasn't, fireworks and none of that stuff, right?
But then, mine was it was a pretty shameful performance here too.
Yeah. But you know what I realized? They all were liars, right? They all were liars. And when I remember telling them what happened, and they were all shocked, like, "Yo, word, how would it feel? Oh my God!" I'm like, "Wait a minute, what do you mean?
You ain't
do this? But what's crazy is after that, like I had no desire after that. And I wasn't a Christian. I just had no desire.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that's a very interesting. Usually it's hooked and cooked.
Yeah.
You you unleash the beast.
And I was afraid of having a baby.
Oof, good. That's a good fear, brother.
I was afraid of having a baby, and I
wasn't afraid enough.
See, I remember being I was 14, 15, and I had a girlfriend, and great relationship with her family, great relationship, and she would pressure me to,
do something.
And I would say no all the time. No.
Woo, boy, you was the prize out here, man. Usually it's us stalking these women, putting this peer pressure for them to.
But one day I got a phone call from her mother. Her mother says, I call her mom. I call her mother. Mom says, "Hey, Andre, did you and my daughter have sex?" I said, "No." "Don't lie to me, boy." "Did you and my daughter have sex?" I said, "Why are you asking me?" I was like, "No."
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? Talk to me. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
She said, "I'll let her tell you." Right. So maybe a month and a half before that, after school, I went to her house.
Sure.
And I knock on the door. She opens the door. And the guy that lived across the hall, who was older than us, like considerably older than us,
Sure.
walked out. And she was in a towel. So I was like, yo, what's going on? Right?
What?
She said, oh, no. He came by because he thought my sister was here. She wants, he likes my sister. Okay, no problem. Whatever.
Ooh.
I was a little naive.
Yeah.
Back to the conversation I was having with her mom. She said, you talk to her. So I tried calling her. She wouldn't answer. Then eventually she answered. So I asked, why is your mom asking if we had sex?
Yeah.
She wouldn't answer. So I asked her straight out, are you pregnant? Turns out she was pregnant.
What?
From the guy that lived across the hall.
Oh, scandalous.
I was in tears. I was broken.
Devastated.
Broken. And my mother couldn't console me. I said, man, I need to leave her go for a walk. Went around the corner to my boy's house. Told him what happened. He says, I know exactly what will help. So we went across the street to the projects, went on the roof. And that was the first time I got high. Because prior to that, I was telling all of them, nah, chill, man. That's going to kill you. Don't.
Yeah.
After that, I got high.
Take away the pain.
You know? Yeah. And that day, I remember saying to myself, you know what? I'm never going to give my heart to a girl. I'm a dog in my
That inner vow, brother.
Yeah.
Are we getting into it now, bro?
Yeah.
You know, obviously it makes sense when I consider some of your journey because, like, you know, I'm 43. You grew up in the 80s, 90s. I tell people it was an amazing time to kind of grow up.
It was
because you had a blend of traditional values outside. Things that were healthy for social and emotional growth. Yeah. You know, you might even know some of your neighbors back in the day, you know, just depending on where you're at. New York City is a different place, but, you know, Staten Island's neighborhoods. Yeah. So, but then technology and, you know, music, television, this is all new. Yeah. Cable, all new. Technology, new. Yep. So by the time that you're 10, 11, 12 years old, you know, you're growing into different opportunities, but you're being educated by some interesting traps. And I look at the generation. So I look at, like, man, my mom's a boomer, you know, like, you know, so born in 48, by the time the 60s is here, is Woodstock, is Vietnam. So there was a rebellion against what was a traditional value.
Establishment.
Because of the hypocrisy of the nation, right? The establishment. So it was just, you know, we're products of it. You know, so just kind of getting back on track. Yeah. Some devastating early experiences for many of us who weren't, you know, really guided the best, right? In light of that, what was the first, though, path of entry? Because you're that steady figure at this stage, having experience with, you know, like I said, some tough ones, but also being able to overcome it. Yeah. So what was the first onboarding experience that, you know what, came through it? Here's where I want to be.
The shift that made me focus heavily on family.
Sure.
Was in truthfulness, the dissolution of my first divorce, my only divorce.
Your divorce.
My divorce. Correct. Because prior to that, I was an assistant pastor full time.
Got you.
And that's all I knew. All I knew, and, you know, church culture and stuff like that.
Sure.
But then after the divorce, I had to resign. And I realized that family is extremely important to me. And I had to, like, really look at what family really was. Sure. So I started I went back to school and pursued my master's in marriage and family counseling. And I learned that, and this is not just anecdotal, we look at the evidence around the world. Sure. Every strong community has strong marriages.
It is.
You'll be hard pressed to find a strong community that doesn't have strong, committed marriage. Excellent. When I say strong, I'm not saying perfect. I'm saying a marriage with a man and a woman who are committed to one another no matter what.
Boom.
And
which is by virtue the very definition of a marriage. Yeah. The commitment aspect.
The commitment aspect. Yeah.
Man, all right, so I see where it sprang from. Yeah. I definitely want to hear your heart because it's a painful experience, right? Divorce. Yeah. And even someone in the faith. Yeah. You know, I don't, you know, like I said, I could unpack it at a deep level, but, you know, talk about how it impacted you. Cause, you know, I tell people avoid at all costs. And I don't try to justify, you know, I'm a godly man. So it says a righteous man swears to his own hurt.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the hard part, if you're going to really take the stance of God. And I'm not saying that there's legal ramifications, then there's heart level, right? There's legal divorce, and then there's, do you have enough love in you to forgive? Yeah. So for you, how did that affect you, and how did you heal through it in a way where you could still view and honor the prospect of a healthy marriage moving forward?
Yeah. So I had to come to grips with my role and what led to it.
It's good.
I had to really self-reflect and say, what did I do to contribute to that? Because I really believe that, every action has a reaction.
Absolutely.
Every action has a reaction, right? So I may have done something to cause them to behave a certain way toward me, or
or something that wasn't done.
Yeah, that too. Or something that wasn't done.
There you go.
And I realized working at a church with a senior pastor as a retired police captain, everything is work. So I spent Monday I had off, except for every other Monday when I had to go in for a pastor's meeting or a minister meeting. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and all day Sunday. And then Tuesday we had prayer at the church. Wednesday night we had Bible study. Thursday we had worship practice. Friday we had youth.
Sure.
Saturdays we had the food pantry. I was always there. My kids were with me. My family was with me.
Sure.
But I wasn't, there like that.
Yeah.
That my family was put on the back burner because of that.
Got you.
So I had to just self-reflect. So I realized it was easy for me to be bitter that she left, right? But then I had to think, well, what did I do to contribute to that?
Excellent.
And it was hard. It took me a while to get there. I ain't gonna front. It took me a while to get there.
It's real. It's real.
I was hurt. Like I was hurt. Like I'm like, yo, I'm a good man. I love Jesus. I was home. I never cheated. Never put a hand on you. I was like,
solid.
But truth be told, and it wasn't one of those things where people just grow apart, because I don't really believe that. People grow, and they may grow in interests of other things, but that's no excuse for growing apart. But
amen to that, brother.
Yeah, and I realized, you know what, Dre, you're not as great as you think you are.
Woo!
you're not.
Boy, that's a life-changing moment right there.
It was. Well, prior to me thinking that, right, I really went through a depression. It was hard. I went through a depression.
Yep.
I had low self. I never had low self-esteem as a person, like growing up.
Sure.
At that point, I felt like I was less than less.
Man.
Like nobody cared. Nobody went. And at the time, and my mother knows, like me and my mom was going through something.
Ooh.
So I'd even have
I'd have
support there. I was alone.
Ugh.
Alone. And when you go through a divorce, no, you don't know. Praise God.
I personally don't know.
When people go through a divorce, the friend that you had mutually takes sides.
Ooh.
And I didn't want people to take sides, but people were taking sides. And I'm like, I'm losing friends, people that I loved and considered family.
Sure.
Had over my house, slept on my couch.
Man.
It was tough, right?
Sure.
And then I had to say, Dre, like, you're not that great.
Yeah. Man, that's a band right there. That's a moment. And I think it's just this is like a little Selah pause moment, because I think this is the opportunity for anyone in any particular area when we talk about just really self-assessing and just not thinking more of ourselves than we ought to. I think that when you're doing the right things, it's easy to get into a lane of overconfidence when there's always the prospect of just being a little bit more considerate and taking the opportunity to, when I say, like, I had to learn how to be considerate.
Yeah.
Being an athlete was self-oriented. Like, it was the focus was so narrow. I had to learn how to love in that capacity and learn how to be more considerate.
And it was to the point where I really didn't know my value. Actually, my wife was the one who once told me, you have no clue like who you are. Right? She told me that one.
It takes a real, a wise woman builds up. Man, I'm gonna tell you what. It takes that, and it really does for any man. And honestly, I really believe at any stage, believing in belonging. Right? Yeah. Like, you need somebody to breathe life into you, to be an advocate for you, and that's one of the most powerful dynamics of a healthy marriage. Yeah. When when a woman can speak into, and like, you know, it's probably one of those pausable moments where they like stop you and look in your eye like, no, you don't get it.
Yeah.
Most men don't have that as much as we would believe. Even having relationships, even have people who think that you're great.
Yep.
Like, no, you're the gift.
Yeah.
No, that's great to hear that, man.
Yeah.
That's great to hear that.
Yeah, it was tough. So like after the divorce, like I went through a long time just growing. And the thing is though, me understanding that I wasn't that great allowed me to say, okay, Dre, now it's time for you to do some work on yourself.
It's good.
Do some work on yourself.
It never stops.
Yeah. Because again, in 2012, I started off the year jobless, single father, newly divorced, and almost homeless. Right?
It is.
It was tough. And I grinded. And it was also at that moment, like when I was a single father, raising 3 kids of my own, living in a 1-bedroom apartment.
Sure.
That they had the bedroom. I slept on the couch, for 3.5, 4 years. I realized at that point how marriage, a strong marriage, is meant to strengthen the family and gave that support. Like, there's that togetherness in the marriage. Sure. Which is why, like, a lot of the work I do is titled Togetherness, TWO, togetherness, right? It's good. It's togetherness. And I realized at that point that a solid marriage, would help build a strong family. True. And strong families will build strong communities. Boom. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I really want to see stronger communities, specifically in the Black community, which is why me teaching at the school I teach at is important to me, and communities that I teach at is important to me because it's those communities that don't have strong marriages. Yeah, tremendous deficit. Yeah. Tremendous deficit. Talk about at what point, like, because you do a fantastic job on your YouTube channel. I've had the privilege of just chopping it up with you. We got to keep that going. But knowing that you have always been in a position of service and impact, I felt like I had ran across some of your content. I'm like, what Dre out here doing? What are you out here talking about? What kind of fights he stirring up out here? Sometimes I throw the bomb out there and just walk away just to see what it does. No, it's fantastic, man. Like, we know what it is. People are afraid to have conversations that are tough to have. Sure. Because everybody takes such a polarizing perspective. Correct. And they don't want to just hear the other person's point of view. Sure. And you could still disagree. Sure. But just listen. And people don't want to do that. And I tell people all the time, I'm one of these. I'm from Jersey. I love me a good argument. I love a good but I haven't perfected bringing it into the internet space. I'm just like, I like dealing with real people. Yeah. And they're very real people, but the distance creates like, So, so like that process for you, like I said, it's a powerful rebirth. It's a really powerful rebirth because number one, when you're in the faith and genuinely in the faith, that's a devastating blow, right? And shame is probably one of the biggest marks to bear. Overcoming that, just overcoming that. Not, because I'm sure there was nothing you ever desired or probably ever seen coming. But then you actually have to bear the shame of it spiritually, understanding that, well, as an example, that sets a bad example. Yeah, it does. Yeah. And out of your control. And these are real realities that people endure. How did you, as you navigated from a career perspective, reshifted and retooled, what has been your view on ministry and service and how that has fit into the podcast and the platform? Yeah, so mindset on ministry has shifted. Sure. I am more concerned about the individual and people than the business side of the institution and the business of the church. And I know there's a place for it. I've been on the side where Pastor Andre was known, was revered, was I would go to places and be sat in the nice seats. Sure. I remember after my resignation, I would go to churches just to visit. Sure. And I would try to sneak in the back. And the pastor would see me and shout me out and tell me, "Hey, Pastor Andre, come into the front." And like, I'm not here for that. I've seen the other side of it. Sure. But once the resignation happened, I'm still a Christian, but people I would see from the church would see me and say, "Boy, jeez, are you still serving Jesus?" No, I'm still serving Jesus, yeah, but I'm just not serving as a pastor. But I realized also at that point is that there could be a divide between clergy, sure, and the people. I say this respectfully for those pastors that are watching out here. I say this respectfully. People will follow a pastor that they rock with.
Sure.
Even if that pastor may not necessarily rock with them.
Big facts.
And some pastors out there, not all, but some pastors would exploit that.
Sure.
And use that so that their platform can be elevated.
Sure.
And I see that happening often.
Yeah.
And really, as a pastor, your call is to guide, to shepherd,
You're supposed
to guide
shepherd
sheep.
the sheep. Yeah.
And you can't shepherd the sheep when you're up here and you act like you're up here, like you're a CEO of a multi-million-dollar organization.
Sure.
When you're not called to be a CEO of a multi-million-dollar organization,
Yeah.
you're called to guide communities to Christ. I see less of that and more of the CEO mindset of what it means to be in ministry.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily, no, not necessarily. I don't rock with it.
Nah, man.
I don't like it.
It's trash.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying every.
Yeah.
So we're saying the same thing, but it was. I got into it. I've been like I said, because I wasn't churched. I'm like, listen, man.
You not being in church was an advantage.
It was an advantage. I'm like, boy, this. I'm like, after a few years being in the church, I'm like, what's this?
Yeah.
What y'all doing?
Yeah.
Now I don't even know nothing, but I just know this ain't it.
Yeah.
Right. And it just talks about, as a believer, the spirit of truth being on the inside of us. I just like, hereby we know the spirit of truth versus the spirit of error. There's just so much error, ungodliness. But ultimately, it all comes from the top down. That's the powerful component of leadership. Yeah. And that's not just the church, but that's in other organizations as well. Yeah. Sports organizations. Yeah. Poor leaders, it'll jack up the entire environment.
True.
So now I'm with you, man. I think there's a massive disconnect. I don't think it's everybody. I think most people are actually well intentioned.
I agree.
And it's just 100%. Poor execution. Yeah. Poor execution. And there's a better way. There's a better way. Deeper conversation, but talk about what goes on at Harrison Family Values. You bore the stripes to be a voice of credibility, even in your own lane. Like that's the cool part about, for lack of better terms, the internet community and being able to create an avenue for dialogue. Yeah. But you bought the stripes for it, man. So, you pursued the passion. You're in the community in some really transformational ways, occupying space. But talk about what are some of the typical themes that you can get, and so that people can definitely, just tune in when they're looking to get some insight.
So we talk about faith, family, fatherhood, and manhood. And I tend to challenge certain ideas today. The ideas that may not necessarily allow for people and couples to become stronger. And I don't like imbalance. So I'll talk about imbalance a lot.
Got you.
So like, for instance, like today we have the rise in feminism.
Sure.
And modern feminism is the elevation of, women.
Sure. The attack of the patriarchy.
Yes.
It's bloody out here.
And then you have the rise of the red pill manosphere and all that stuff, which is trying to swing the pendulum in a totally different direction. And what's happening is everybody's just trying to have the pendulum, on their side. Sure. Instead of just trying to bring it to the middle and say, guys, this is where it needs to be. Sure. This is where it should happen.
How a healthy male can still be empathetic, but also, considerate. And those aren't necessarily feminine traits. Those are righteous traits, but we can, like I said, hugs, kisses, and like I said, I think we've learned these things. Yeah. I tell people I'm the last slate of Gen X. I was born 1980. Yeah. So I'm like, I just made the cut. But at the end of the day, it's like we were, especially in this area where there's more attack against traditional values, faith, et cetera, things that are profitable, even just morality, traditional moral, if you want to call them Judeo-Christian values. Yeah. But it was this time where, it left these broken homes, right? Missing fathers left tremendous voids, especially within our community. Yes. This disdain that you felt, that was, anti-God rhetoric and which still exists and is actually growing more ferocious. So, but we still have to have morals within a community, within a society, right? Yeah. So, you know, people are always trying to disconnect religion, but I said every true sense of morality comes from a religion, right? Like, so you can call it values, you can call it whatever you want, but that's just your religion. Yeah. You know, like atheism is a religion.
Yeah, they believe something.
Yeah, like your belief is that you don't believe a God. Yeah. So you've created your own religion. So it's very interesting, you know, like, but and I agree with you, because we had that sense of toxic masculinity. We had a wounded generation prior to that couldn't emit emotions or was unwilling to emit emotions for their idea of what a man was coming through. Now we're going too far, right? I agree with you completely, man. So, you know, family, fatherhood, manhood. What's the hardest topic, or what's the most engaging topic that you find, you know, within your community?
Just addressing the fallacies within the red pill. So I have enemies on YouTube. I have enemies. And so I did a video a couple of years ago that went viral on, may he rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. And all I said in the video was that he doesn't speak for all men.
Sure.
So what was happening is he was building a cult following of younger men. And let's be real, most of these young men wasn't about anything. Yeah. They was rejected by women, and they was in their basement, probably playing video games. And not even their basement, in their grandmama's basement, playing video games. Not about anything, right? Yeah. And they were claiming that Kevin Samuels was speaking for them. And all I was saying was Kevin Samuels doesn't speak for all men.
That was it.
That was it. I said he doesn't speak for me. He doesn't speak for all men.
Sure.
You know, I said, you know, he had some good, and he
had a lot of good stuff.
He doesn't speak for all men, and I don't believe that. I think a man should be able to stand on his own, be able to take what somebody else says and not agree with everything, because we're not always going to agree on everything. And what was happening is these young men who probably didn't have strong guidance from a father, correct, believed everything that he said, to the point where he started treating Kevin Samuels like the gospel. Like the God. Yeah. Calling him the Godfather and all that stuff. So here's my thing, right? Kevin Samuels will 1 second be empathetic on a young lady and talk about, you know, they need therapy. You know what? I'm going to help you, and I'm going to pay for your counseling sessions. Sure. Right? That's dope. Yeah. That's dope. But when he starts saying that high value men don't cheat and they exercise options, so women need to understand that if they get in with a high value man, they got to be okay with them exercising the option. I don't agree with that. And I can be a man and be like, that's not cool. At all. Not cool. But here's the thing. You have a guy in the basement, not about anything. They're going to be like, you know what? He's looking to shine. Yeah, he's right. Yeah, you know, these women need to understand. Exercise options. Yeah, so now you're unfaithful. Yeah. So if I'm critical about anything that anybody in the red pill say, then I'm being attacked. Got you. You know, and same side. You know, there's women that don't like my content either. Of course. You know, I'll talk about, you know, that means you're doing a good job. Yeah. Certain behaviors that don't promote solid. At the end of the day, I will address and expose certain behaviors that don't produce solid families. Excellent. Right? And I don't think people like that. People today want to hear how great they are and how wrong the other person is. And listen, and that's an issue. What I love what you already stated was that, you know, we don't have to agree on this, but this is actually has some substantial merit. Yeah. And I think, like I said, we call it in the faith community, there's an advantage because you're closer to, I mean, like everything has a design. Mm-hmm. There's a way. And that's where I get to, there's a logical, empirical side of understanding people, right? Understanding marriage, what's the origin of it? What's the purpose of it? Right? There's some central purposes of it, starting with procreation, starting with companionship. Then, you know, moving forward, you create a family, the difference between a male and a female, what the needs are, the role of the mother versus the role of the father. Yeah. I said, man, I'm a good old traditionalist, you know. Now, it doesn't mean that I didn't change more diapers than most. I got 7 kids. Yeah. Right? So right, like, and guess what? If little mama was hit the jackpot, if my wife told me somebody was about to pay her about, you know, $300,000-$400,000 to go do some kind of work, I'll be at home with these kids. So I'm all for different alternatives. Yeah.
But in relation to roles, understanding, I think there is a way, and that's fantastic. What are the greatest challenges and or opportunities that you see amiss? Because there's the bright side of this emerging generation as well. Yeah. So when you consider hope and being, I'm sure it's a sense of optimist, but also being in the trenches of serving an emerging generation. Yeah. What are the opportunities, i.e. problems that are present within the schools and the best means or needs to provide within some of these communities and ecosystems?
Yeah. So New York City is a weird type of school system because we don't operate as a board anymore. So, there's school boards. No, not anymore. New York City is just under one umbrella that's governed by the mayor. So whatever the mayor wants and the chancellor wants, we all have to do. But what's not taken into consideration is how very different some communities are. Because even though it's run
borough and inside the borough.
Yeah. So now, even though it's run as one system, right, schools operate very differently and the needs are very different as well. So I'll give you an example, right? A school like the school that I work at that has maybe a handful of families that are married.
Sure.
Right? And then the school, maybe 3.5 miles down in a little bit more of an affluent community that has marriages, and it's rare that they have single families.
Jeez.
You'll see the difference.
Yeah.
So now here's the thing, right? There's certain things that people are afraid to say. And I'm not shy to say it. When we look at the state of the family in a specific community,
sure,
we can gauge how well students will do academically. And people don't want to really focus on that. They want to acknowledge that. If we and the thing is, once you acknowledge that, right, you start putting the shaming out there.
There you go.
And it's not about shaming.
No.
It's about what kind of results do you want for your children.
Thank you. So this actually gets to performance. Yeah. Man, like this actually gets to performance for productivity, which really validates one's service. So, it really gets back to the base level of people are shirking responsibility or self-preserving which is a human condition.
And the challenge that teachers have in communities like the one I work at is we have to now supplement, what they should have been learning, with what they need to be learning right now. So let me show you how it is, right? When you're teaching third grade, you have to teach third grade curriculum.
Okay.
The problem is these students may not be able to read on third grade. So now I have to teach the curriculum. And while I'm teaching the curriculum,
teach them how to read.
I need to teach them how to read. It's very difficult. And when you go to communities where families are intact or there's strong marriages,
sure,
you don't see that as often.
Yep,
you may see it pockets. We don't see that as often. And I think that in public school systems, they don't really focus so much on how can we help families become better.
It would be a good use of the dollar.
It would be.
There would be a good use of the dollar.
But here's the thing. Now we're going into morality. Yep. Because now marriage is not anything today but morality now. So
what you see fit.
Yeah, what you see fit. So people are not getting married in those communities anymore.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
But they're popping out
kids
children,
like crazy.
Right? And now the kids are the ones that are behind.
Becoming more and more unstable.
Yeah. And that's one of the challenges that a lot of educators have. And I'm not saying it as a means to shame these communities.
No.
Because the benefit is, the positive thing is a lot of these communities have people within it.
Sure.
That love the community and love everybody in it. For instance.
You have to. Yeah. Like you guys are superheroes.
Yeah. And watch this, right? You can have a student B, right? Live in a building with student A, right? And their families are close. They're not related. Right?
Okay.
But they call each other cousins.
Yep.
They call each other cousins, right? And that family will look out for this child like it's theirs.
Sure.
Right? But they still lack a strong male presence in the home consistently.
Sure.
And all that stuff ties in.
It does.
It does tie in. There was a stat done, right? And you guys can Google it so you guys can find it out for yourself. Like, be like a Berean and research what I'm about to say. So when you look at the discrepancy between kids growing up,
sure,
in single parent homes, single mother homes, and married homes, there's a huge discrepancy.
Sure.
We know where the discrepancy sort of flattens out?
What's that?
When a child is raised in a single father home.
Really?
Yes. Now, this is not me to discredit single mothers.
No.
Right?
It's such a touchy. You know, I know. It's just such a. It's you want a soundbite talk about the single mothers. I grew up from a single mother, but the reality is, I'm bold. I mean, like if we could just keep it data driven and empirical, it's a failed experiment.
Yes, it is.
And it was nothing people signed up for like that. True. But it hasn't been a productive run.
Yeah.
You know, meaning like. To bring someone to the age of an adult is a respectable accomplishment, but a healthy adult who's prepared for life in the human experience, it requires these two levers, right?
And that's the thing. So when you have even a child who, and also with another sense of taper off, is when both the parents have a good co-parenting relationship. So children internalize who their parent is.
Sure.
So it's important for both parents to be involved in the kids' lives. Co-parenting is extremely important. And if you're watching this and you're a single parent and you don't give access to your kid's father or mother to the child, you're doing a very incredible disservice to your child.
Big bam.
Huge disservice to your child. And if you want to raise secure children, first, get married before you have children.
It helps.
Exemplify what a good marriage is and what a commitment is. Third, try not to get a divorce. But if you do get a divorce, leave that there. Raise the children together and support the children together so that they can have that sense of love and support. Because imagine this, right?
Powerful.
Imagine this, right? And I do this when I do seminars and workshops on co-parenting, right? Imagine a child knowing that mom and dad don't really get along that well.
Sure.
But they're willing to come together to celebrate me.
Mm-hmm.
How would that child feel?
They're going to really value that. They're going to
love that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And what if they can get along while they're celebrating you?
Yeah.
Right? All that stuff plays a part in the child's upbringing. So again, we live in a very imperfect world.
Sure.
Ideally, mom and dad will stay married and stay committed, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way.
Excellent.
But the goal is to raise secure children.
There you go.
Now, as an educator, I'm trying to do my best to help these students grow up a little bit more secure.
Correct.
I'm limited though. I can only do but so much.
Massive limitations. You're literally getting hired to teach curriculum, and obviously, like I said, we've been very intentional about raising our 7 beautiful children. We've homeschooled for 15 years. My children have been in school, and massive sacrifice. Now, like this wasn't like this. Oh man, I'm balling out, so I'm bringing my kids home. My wife forfeited a certified nurse midwife career, so massive sacrifice for us, but formatively as well as educationally. But I'm like, man, teachers have 2 jobs, coaches have 2 jobs. Yeah, it's literally 2 jobs, and so I really honor teachers. In the last couple of years, my kids being in school, I'm like, man, obviously my kids are at a classical Christian school, so I'm very comfortable with the approach. But everything's with intent, right? It's intent considering what aligns with our values, and ultimately, I'm actually paying you to educate my children, right? Hopefully we can keep it that way. I mean, but obviously where we've arrived to within our society, the state of the union is not that simple for a teacher. Yeah. A coach should be coaching football, not raising a man, but there's the opportunity to impact them on a social emotional level in a really profound way. But then we go back to why you said the beginning where you talked about why I do what I do. Sure. And it's because I grew up without a father. And a lot of these kids don't have access to a positive male role model in their life. And for many, I am the only positive male role model that they'll see for a long time. This past summer, I was teaching summer school. And I had a student do a writing piece. And in the writing piece, he wrote about me and said, I never had a black male teacher, and I'm glad I did. Wow. Man, that's got to be, that's life giving. It brought tears to my eyes. Praise God. Man. But it brought tears to my eyes. Yeah. Bro, so go ahead. Yeah, so one of my motivators for being in education and wanting to hopefully advance to administration is because
I want to be that, positive black male role model that they see, father figure that they see. Like again, like I as a child, I was always looking for that, and a lot of these boys, they too looking for it.
I remember looking for it myself. My pop was, like very, very young. He was a strong male figure. Yeah. I used to just want to go learn how to, mow the lawn. Yeah. I just want to be,
I wish my son would learn how to mow the lawn.
Listen, it was a different time. Ain't none of my kids asking me how to mow nothing. Okay. Right? Yeah, so, but everything comes with intention. Like, meaning like what used to come a little bit more innately within a previous generation doesn't come innately anymore. Mm-hmm. And I tell people, everything is coming to people versus seeking out. You used to have to go to a library. You used to have to go to find or seek information, seek out individuals because individuals or places were the conduit to information. The worst part now is it just comes to you.
Yeah, algorithms.
Oh, God, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah.
So no one has a seeking mentality, but it makes them less persistent.
True.
And makes them a little bit more apathetic and entitled.
Yeah, they believe it's going to just come to them.
It's super deep, bro. Yeah. Listen, man, give us where we can find more of you, your platform, because we'll be out here cooking all night. We'll definitely bring you back. So you might be a full-time contributor out here.
Let me know, man. And I'm in Jersey now, so
you're in Jersey, bro.
Right up the street.
You gotta do it.
So you guys can find me on YouTube by going to youtube.com. /Harrison Family Values. If you go to Instagram, you can find me at Andre_D_Harrison. I have a website, coachingbydre.com. That's where you can, if you a married couple, engaged couple looking for premarital counseling, things like that, you can go there and schedule me, and we can meet virtually. If you're in the tri-state area, we can meet in person as well. You're a lifeline of love and service and a tremendous example, bro. Yeah. So glad we connected, keep building. More to come in the future, bro. Appreciate you. My pleasure. Thank you, bro.